And the final match of our weekend is about to kick off here. One more game in North America and in the last chance qualifiers before we move on to looking forward to the playoffs, and that will be next weekend. So we had an earlier 2-0 Laramie that was not particularly close, which was surprising given the talent on the opposite side, and that's Mr. Play-by-Play. And now it's a team that's had, like 30 minutes to sit back and regroup. Is that enough time to cool off after an 0-2 loss?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this team is full of lots and lots of individuals with a ton of competitive practice. Everybody's had a bad game or two, and got
No,
to come
never.
back from that, especially in a tournament as long as this one has been working up to this playoff part.
Yep.
I mean, like you said, this is the last of last chances. One of these teams is out, and
Yep.
that's it.
Done entirely. No playoffs, no more Smite 2 Founder Series for you. Admittedly, it's just surprising that Mr. Play-by-Play is in the last chance qualifiers and is in the last of last chance qualifiers. But as you mentioned earlier, and I think important to note, these two teams, Mr. Play-by-Play and Throat Punch Studio, and we'll take a look at it right now, played against each other earlier on up in Group C. So we're looking at the top right-hand corner. Mr.
Mhm.
Play-by-Play 2-0'd Throat Punch Studio, who then beat the Theater Thugs 2-0. Group C just full of 2-0 matches. And then now these two teams are rematching once again one another in the last chance qualifier. Winner goes to playoffs, loser goes home. Group D is first name Zach. Roll the dice. We will keep you updated on the outcome of that matchup between those two teams.
Yeah, funny enough,
Same
Dave.
situation there. Go ahead.
Yeah, they had the same exact thing like you were about to just say.
Oh
I
yeah, you're
do
right.
think like they're also running back this matchup. And we'll see if it ends up the exact same way. They had a 3-game banger of a set the first time, but
Yep.
maybe they'll throw it back one more time.
Yeah, I hope, and I hope that we get a good one here between Mr. Play-by-Play and Throat Punch Studio. I mean, could be a quick one if we see the same things we saw the first time these two teams played. Vulg, Zekvex, Trin, Lineant, Prince. I mean, this is the roster here for Throat Punch Studio. And look, I don't think it's surprising to say that Mr. Play-by-Play is a slightly more recognized roster, but that is the beauty of these tournaments, and we'll talk about it a bit more as we go into picks and bans,
Mhm.
where the point of open qualifiers and last chance qualifiers and all this is it doesn't really matter if you were known or not known in Smite 1. I mean, you got here because you were a good enough team, and that's really all that does matter. And so we go off bias, right? I mean, we're biased to say that the team on the right side of your screen is a bit more well-known in Smite competitive history, but new teams, new players, making new names for themselves. That's the key. I wonder, though, so we look back at picks and bans from our previous set. We're now looking at Mr. Play-by-Play, trying to recenter, readjust some draft strategy, maybe. However, I don't remember at all. I don't know at all what they played against Throat Punch Studio the first time around. And so they could be leaning on some history looking back at that as well. Yamoja will take a ban first and foremost. Mr. Play-by-Play in that second pick slot will have some opportunities. I think first and foremost, Laramie, you got to get layers on something that's comfortable because he's a carry factor out of the jungle. And let's see if we can get Krim on something maybe a bit more straightforward than we saw. You saw the Hecate, which is great, but Ra felt like a big swing for the fences and just came up a bit short.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good options to start off with in terms of what this first pick could be. We've got Sobek, we've got Zeus, Anubis, or it will be Sobek, actually, now that we see the first lock-in here. Did look pretty okay in the last set that we watched when we did get to see Sobek in game number 2. So I'm interested to see what Throat Punch Studio is going to bring with this one. But I wouldn't be surprised here to see the early Fenrir selection for Mr. Play-by-Play to get layers on that comfort pick. And then I'm hoping, crossing my fingers here, that we grab an Anubis or a Zeus. But the Baron lock-in is not bad either.
If I see Throat Punch Studio lock in Anubis and Zeus, I might just turn off the computer because it's what happened to Mr. Play-by-Play consistently in the set that we just watched. But different players, different play styles again for Throat Punch Studio, so might not end up hitting that same mark. Baron plus Fenrir, so both Anubis and Zeus available. But Baron and Fenrir, Laramie, still feels pretty straightforward, both pretty prioritized. Layers looked actually all right on the Fenrir in game number 2. Camped out that duo lane, but ultimately didn't matter down the stretch. The Zeus ended up scaling up just fine. So one of the two in the Anubis ends up getting picked. Could end up being a Zeus to follow up, but Baron plus Fenrir, a good start for Mr. Play-by-Play.
Yeah, for sure. Considering that we got to see the last set with the Anubis and Zeus live on air, if I'm Throw Punch Studio, I'm definitely checking up on those picks and bans, and I could have also gone for that option, but Kronos seems to be making his way up the ladder here in terms of ADC relevance. We used to see Jingwei every game, more or less, but Kronos now is the new hotness, and we've certainly seen that be the case as the builds have expanded a bit more into a wider variety of items, and Kronos being a hybrid scaler certainly does a lot of that. Now, if I'm Mr. Play-by-Play, I'm picking Zeus. That's really all the analysis you need from me at this point, considering just how well we saw the Zeus perform in the past set, and really throughout the past couple of weekends. As I know that at least in my, normal 9-to-5 job that I work, as a game designer, we certainly have heard quite a lot about the Zeus. And I know they certainly know the power of it, having been defeated by it in the past set.
Yeah, I wonder, well, I was going to say, I wonder how Krim feels with it. Doesn't have to go to mid, though. Actually, we didn't see it in mid at all in the 2-0. We saw once in jungle, one in ADC, so it certainly doesn't have to go mid. Now, likely would not see it in the jungle this game. I'm assuming that's where the Fenrir is going to go. Krim is just so comfortable on those control mage style of picks, and Zeus can play that way. But you can tell they can log in hard about this one. Going up against the Anubis, it's a matchup Krim will be familiar with. Again, had to see it a couple of times in just our previous set. Up against that Kitty Party team. So you could be looking for ADC here. Jingwei hasn't really been prioritized in both the matchups we've watched, Lermy. And it looks like will continue to not be prioritized. I think CERN v Onher. Oh no, there was a Zeus in one of those games, of course. But Onher has been really popular here today. Pairing it with the Ymir.
This is
a pretty solid duo.
Yeah, definitely interesting here because we did see Dash pick up the Baron in the past set, but this Ymir makes me think that this Baron might be going over to Snatty, who might want to try something different after unfortunately missing those matchups in solo, considering the Hercules and the Bellona picks from the last set. Wants to switch it up, try a completely different style. I'm totally for that. I think Ymir could also go solo, but he's just better in support, and I think that especially against the Sobek will do great. Putting that wall right up in front of the Sobek, trying to get the charge prey off is going to be a nice, helpful reaction to save your ADC in a lot of situations. God, it happened again.
I know. I was just waiting to hear that laughter, Lermy. Anubis plus Zeus. It crushed Mr. Play, but they have got to. I mean, this is a very talented team, not only of players but of drafters, right? I mean, you have got a sense that the Zeus is about to get picked. Maybe not so much that the Hades is going to get picked. That is a lot of magical damage for Throat Punch Studio. Hades a bit of a curveball right at the end of the draft here. Also means the jungle pick is going to be a bit unique here for Throat Punch Studio. Mr. Play-by-Play not successful today against Zeus and Anubis in the flexible team comp. And they still have one more pick to find an answer here, presumably their mid or solo laner.
Yeah, this Hades is a very interesting selection because he does have a lot of safety, especially after a couple recent rounds of buffs, and just in general, in-scalers are pretty good across the board right now, as you can see with a lot of priority towards them, at least from Throat Punch Studio. If I'm Mr. Play-by-Play, my remaining choices aren't looking really great. I mean, we did see the Rod not do so well, but the Hecate was a really good choice for Krim, and honestly, Krim could go towards a Hunter as well. The Jingwei is still available, a bit unconventional for mid, right? But it does the role, it clears the lane, it gets the late game, and starts to pop off. So we could see something like that. Kukulkan, another option, but not my favorite option, considering you're against the Sobek Hades, and he has a bit of a problem getting away from those characters, considering he does have a dash in SMITE 2. and we recently did change him a bit to make it easier for you to use that dash, but at the same time, it just doesn't really pack the same punch that you'd like to see. So it's going to be a very tough choice here for Krim. Is he going to prioritize the safety, or will he try to go for the burst damage the late game and really not be too worried about it? Trust in his support and his solo and his jungle to be peeling for him while he's laying up with all that damage.
Man, just the pacing here. I mean, I don't want to look too far into how long it's taking the players to make their picks here.
Is about to take place.
I mean, Throw Punch Studio sort of insta-locked their 5 when it was made available to them, and Mr. Play-by-Play hung in there a little bit and had to think just a touch extra. So it ends up being a relatively standard comp for Mr. Play-by-Play. Baron, I would assume, would go over to solo lane. Morgan, the final pick of the draft here. I guess the argument is you can be anyone that's in the game right now, including a Zeus or an Anubis, once you lock in that Morgan. And so as such can be a puzzle piece of many different shapes and sizes and can kind of fit into most situations. Do you like it, though, for Krim to finish off the draft?
It's risky. Certainly is risky, because this is a character that really struggles against enemies that can lock her down, and boy do they have a lot of lockdown on the side of Throw Punch Studio. So it's a good option in a kind of vacuum when you look at what else it's working with on Mr. Play-by-Play side. But when you look at what she's against, it starts to get a little bit trickier. Krim, though, is an excellent player, has a lot of mechanical skills, so I would trust him on this pick in general. And of course, in a team setting, if your boy says he wants to play Morrigan, let him play Morrigan.
Yep.
And by all means, I hope that we see a lot of Fenrir transforms. Some Baron transforms wouldn't be bad. And if you need to get the heck out of there, Hades is not a bad one as well. I think turning into tanks is going to be the best option here for Krim, so I hope we're seeing a lot of the Fenrir, Baron, Hades transforms.
I worry about the Anubis Zeus combo. It was a thorn in the side of Mr. Play-by-Play in their swift 0-2 loss. Now, so, I mean, look, you do sometimes have to zoom out and say, I mean, regardless of team comp, we can potentially just outclass the team we're playing up against. I mean, if you asked anyone who's just tuning in right now, you would say, well, I'm vastly more familiar with the competitive history of the Mr. Play-by-Play roster. But again, that sort of internal bias would then tell you to favor them. But who knows? When I looked at the roster document, a couple of the players for Throw Punch Studio are listed as subs, and so now they're subbing in for this Throw Punch Studio team. I think the Lane Train and Control Alt Eat were listed as subs that are now playing for this roster, so potentially some switch-ups happening there. This first game, I think, Lermy, will be pretty telling of the type of set that we're going to have. I think and I hope to see Layers get aggressive and stay aggressive, because in competitive history of past, the Layers that I least liked watching was like the Erlong Shen sit back and farm up style, and I think Fenrir the type of pick that allows him to get aggressive and stay aggressive.
Yeah, I don't think one set loss is going to make Layers change how he plays at all. He will certainly be going completely aggro no matter what character he's on. I mean, SMITE 2 Layers has certainly been like that, at least, and we did see that in the last set as well. And like you said, I think play on field is going to determine a lot of the pace of this game. How quickly will Mr. Play-by-Play swing back from their loss in the previous set, and will Throw Punch Studio turn it around from their previous matchup that they had against this very same team at the beginning of the bracket in this last chance qualifier? And gosh, this being the last set in the last chance qualifiers, it's just all of the tensions are rising. It's going to be an exciting matchup, and I cannot wait to see how this game goes.
Oh no, it's really special. I mean, after this whole long process of open qualifiers and Swiss brackets and second chance qualifiers and now last chance qualifiers, it all sort of culminates in just this one final game. We'll have playoffs next weekend, a couple weekends off, and then we'll have the next step towards Vegas after that. But before that, we got to get through this best of 3. Mr. Play-by-Play trying to bounce back against Throw Punch Studio. Game 1 will set the stage. Let's jump on in. Layers on the Fenrir jungle, going up against the Anubis jungle for Zekvex. That'll put Vulg on the Hades over in solo lane. And I was wondering if we'd see Prince on that Zeus jungle, Lermy, but ends up being the Anubis instead. Anubis with Blink in the jungle is something we've seen before We've also seen Mr. Play-by-Play fall prey to what we're seeing here. The 5-man death ball, potentially stepping too far forward, but I was going to say both teams are going to be safe for the time being, and I think they might just be now with that ward being dropped. So early game will fizzle out, no problem. And luckily for Mr. Play-by-Play, all 5 left alive on the map.
Yeah, I am surprised to see the Anubis in the jungle. I won't lie to you, Dave. I do think a lot of the changes that went to Zeus coming into SMITE 2 make him the better jungler in terms of clear speed. Anubis tends to be a bit better when it comes to actual damage, but the cooldowns is really what's going to hurt the most here. Considering we've got a speed buff as the mid selection for the randomized buff camp, I'm not surprised to see this Anubis and the Fenrir opt to start on the red buff side this time, instead of going towards the speed. They'll fight over that single speed, I would imagine, because if you're a jungler, you know that feeling of not having a speed buff, and you don't want to be the one that doesn't get it.
Yeah, sure don't. Also worth mentioning, I'm gonna have to check my my roster document here. Unless Krim changed names, it's actually not Krim playing mid this game for Mr. Play-by-Play. It's their sub. Yeah, it's their first sub, Melody, over in mid lane. So everyone else still playing their standard roles, but Krim has to sub out for Melody in game 1 of this set. And Krim is one of the most talented mid laners that we've got here in North America. So that is certainly a switch that I'm going to have to consider as this set goes on. Control Alt Eat though, blinks away. Blink on Cernanos. Says goodbye to the impending pressure. And so it is a big change for me out of mid, but I still think there's faith around the rest of this team. Melody's certainly a strong player as well. But a lot of faith around the rest of this Mr. Play-by-Play roster. Hopefully you can sort of slot things right back in and let it flow through the other lanes and just play your role as necessary. The early pressure still mounting here against the Throat Punch duo lane. Blink forward, freeze, damage. And Lynant has no dash. How about it? I'm So Pringles was getting crushed in our previous set. Oh no, Layers avoids the final tower shot. Almost an 0-2 start. Instead, it's just first blood for Pringles.
That was incredibly close. One more auto would have done it, but lucky Layers does not take that extra step into the tower. Would have been in quite a lot of danger in that case. And that indeed is the strength of this Fenrir in comparison to the Anubis in the jungle. Just much more natural at clearing these camps versus the Anubis, who takes a lot of time. Having all those dot abilities and not very strong autos does take its toll in your clear speed as well. So still seeing Zek go for a lot of the natural easy farm on the map to start getting that level 5 online. You might see a gank at that point, but until then, we're generally chilling. And I do want to take a second here to go back and rediscuss the sub situation that you had mentioned, if the duo lane will permit me. Thankfully they will.
I think they will, yeah.
Melody in the mid lane is taking up the Baron, which is somewhat surprising to me, considering that I would have imagined that Morgan feels more like a mid laner versus the Baron. They'll do a little swapsy there, but interesting to see if they will actually go for this more hybrid tanky variety. But Zach here coming behind does hit the wrap. A lot of damage out of the Baron.
Melody subs in on the Baron and immediately gets ganked in mid by Prince and Zekvex. Oh, one more auto, come on! You gotta have it! Prince is gonna get dropped by Layers. Thank goodness for Throat Punch, snagging a kill, but how about it over in solo? That's Snatty. Yeah, transforms. My brain got scrambled there. So this is Morgan we're watching. It's a Morgan. I was like, wait, Layers is on the Fenrir. Now Snatty transforms into the Fenrir, snags a solo kill in solo lane. How about a double freeze for Dashboard? Purple buff invade attempted. Pringles jumps in, pluck back from Lynant, but Pringles unconcerned and has enough damage, just a couple more autos needed. But instead, it's a rotation back through from the jungler. The Anubis burns down Pringles, and Dashboard surely follows as well. It's a clean answer back from Throat Punch. And Mr. Play-by-Play, I think, gets a kill over here on this side of the map as well. So small victories, slight edge to Mr. Play-by-Play in the game.
Yeah, not a bad start at all. Gonna have to keep an eye on this solo lane though, considering this Hades did take a turn for the worse over in that beginning of the game. is now a level down, but that's just what happens with Hades against a character that can maintain his pressure. Hades known for his excellent clear, but the thing is he has excellent clear compared to other tanky characters. When you're talking about Hades versus a damage character, they're about close to even, and Hades certainly is not winning that matchup anytime soon against at this point, full damage Morgan.
Yep. We've seen that type of flexibility in the solo lane in past. There was a whole mage solo meta for a little while, a couple years ago. Can still be played in the proper hands. I'm thinking like SOT running down some of those crazy solo lane picks. Snatty trying to replicate some of that performance here. Gonna stack up nicely on that book of thought. Wall's been connecting for dashboard. Jungle presence over here on left for layers as well. Purple buff peeked at, should be stolen away. So a small gap starting to grow over on the left side of the map for Mr. Play-by-Play. If they can keep that pressure mounting over in duo lane. It's a slight advantage though. Levels largely the same. It's really just dashboard's advantage over the other side that makes the difference. I'm not sure Zek Vex here is going to be all that sneaky. 2v2 over in mid. Seems Lermy, there was a bit of flash in the pan early in this game. Both teams now maybe a bit more keen to play slowly, I say, as Snatty rotates into mid. Adjust damage. Wow, Zekvex gets basically nothing done with that Anubis ultimate. Has to blink away. How about a Ragnarok into life of the party? A Lightning Storm, though. That's helpful. Out of mid lane from Prince, and Brutalize gets it done for Snatty on a rotation out. Couple of kills. And now Mr. Play-by-Play sneaks one more away.
Dave, what's more scary than one Fenrir?
Two Fenrirs.
Absolutely true. And that is indeed what happens to this poor Anubis. It's a dog-eat-dog world out here in this best of 3 to end these last chance qualifiers. And certainly a good transformation there from Snatty and a crazy rotation. To think the solo would make their way over at 5 minutes, 30 seconds in the game. Thankfully, they were able to get that force off in terms of trying to make a fight and make that rotation worth it. You know, a little bit of extra farm for the Hades won't hurt, but at the same time, 2-0-0 for Snatty thus far is a really good look.
Yeah, if this Morgan can keep rotating out, I mean, you kind of got a pseudo-double jungler if Morgan ends up camping it out in mid lane just a bit further. Still, though, that impending pressure that we talked about a lot last set. Oh, jump in. That's aggressive from Pringles. Control, Alt, eat. It's going to eat that Desert Fury. So is Line Ant. Couple ultimates forced out over in duo lane. Junglers will match up over on right as well. Brutalize from Layers. Wants to add another kill to the one so far. Dodges out the wrap. The Lightning Storm, all of it. Good movement from Layers. Prince has to burn the ultimate. Backs away. How about what happens over here in solo? Snatty eats an entire Hades ultimate, has a stun, Beads gets used on the dash. So really unfortunate trades for Throat Punch in the last couple of seconds. Ults and relics all having to get used. As Mr. Play-by-Play play the aggressors.
Why is Pringles here? What happened?
Yeah, wait, I didn't know what side of the map we're looking at. He was... No way he sits there and waits. No, he's gonna back up. But Lermy, there's still this impending threat of Anubis and Zeus, right? I mean, you talked about it from our previous set. You got to shut him down. You got to start to outpace him a bit, and it's happened early, but we'll see in a few minutes if they're able to get any more kills right now, because both Zekvex and Prince are just kind of hanging back and farming.
Yeah, at this point, though, they've got to be really careful. Ymir ult is popped, and Lin tries to get in there, does eat the Baron ult, but Zek is able to grab the kill with the ultimate, and dashboard completely stuck.
Whoa, wall is nice, but just a question of who. It'll be Control Alt Eat. Wow, and there's a Fury up as well. This is brutal timing for Mr. Play-by-Play. Couple of kills handed over, and it should be a Fury. Yep, no one in range. I mean, this just feels bad now that Pringles was over on the right side of the map. I mean, I don't know if that fight goes any differently, even if there's an on her there, but...
At least they're not going for gold, right?
Right. Instead, Throat Punch do go for gold on the back of a couple of kills. Still behind, but not that far. And a slight momentum shift in this game as you see some life from the Anubis. It was slow, but now 3-1-2, I believe, out of the jungle for Throat Punch's Anubis jungle.
Yeah, essentially, the closer that we move towards the late game, the more and more this Anubis will just function like an Anubis and less like a jungler. Not really looking to get any of those crazy plays in terms of running around, but uh-oh. Jump used on the wave there. Does need to force the ultimate to get the second jump out, but that is a lot of damage.
Gotta have it if you're Layers. You can sort of sense Throat Punch starting to make some plays around the map. Not only the couple of kills, but the Gold Fury. Need to see more out of the jungler. He certainly played well so far this game, but again, it's the Layers that we come to know and love, is aggressive and in your face all the time. He'll have to make a play happen in mid. Double stun and brutalized does nearly enough. And a Ragnarok finishes it off. Melody plucked backwards. Execute just out of range. Dashboard. Is that 1 or 2 kills for him here in mid? Zekbek's walled off. Another stun from Layers. There's your fight in mid. Had to happen. I think that's 3 for 1. Ultimately over in the mid lane. Control Alt Eat and I'm So Pringles battling it out. But how much of a battle is this really? Control Alt Eat got all the damage, but cannot stand. Because guess what? Mr. Play-by-Play rotating through. Patty is going to rotate in behind. Oh, that stinks for Pringles. Steps forward into his death, and Snatty has got to get something done. Dashboard's got to be careful because there's plenty of damage from this CERN. That is brutal, and Control Alt Eat lives. A forgettable moment for Mr. Play-by-Play on left.
Yeah, unfortunate that they don't go for that fight. Kurnos, though, being that level 10, you know, maybe could have found something against Natty. Doesn't want to really risk the shutdown at this point, considering he's got quite the advantage here. May not have any levels, but certainly does have the advantage in terms of the pocket, at least at this point. Although overall, not too much between these two teams. Really the only advantage you see level-wise at this point for either side is 1 level for the Zeus in mid and 1 level for the Fenrir in jungle. But this Fenrir will not stop getting active.
I mean, all the pressure is just on this Hades. And look, if it's Layers who's building up the kills, then you're feeling just fine. But elsewhere on the map is just not going great for Mr. Play-by-Play here. You're going to have to really ask Layers to play a role. Hello! Goodbye. A double kill on both sides of the map for Layers. 503 rampaging is the Fenrir now. And now a slight get back for Throat Punch as the Pyromancer traded. But a great couple moments there from Layers. You just got to stop the bleeding in the other lanes on this map because Throat Punch have been able to trade effectively.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time there for Control Alt I at you know, a place where you wouldn't want to take a death, considering that also was a shutdown and passed right along to the 5-0-3 jungler. We'd love to see that if you missed your Play-by-Play. And considering gold's up in just a few moments, a lot of pressure to be had on this left-hand side, especially considering there's a Naga to be had as well.
Okay, Mr. Play-by-Play, stay clean in the next few minutes. I mean, these junglers are just battling it out. How about it? 5-2 for Zekvex. And Layers at 503. Good power spikes being hit for both. Gold Fury could be the next battleground. First one sort of given up, maybe head-scratchingly. I'm So Pringles was over on the right side of the map, just split pushing. Now Mr. Play-by-Play want to remedy that mistake. Group up as 4. Snatty rotating in from solo. A strong Morrigan as well, so it's not just the junglers, but Zek. All the pressure flowing into the Anubis. This would be a good moment. The Dashboard gets it. Lurking in the waters, though. Lion Ant. Left to back away. Man, this is awkward for Throat Punch. Conveyor belt in. And Layers still has his ultimate. Ragnarok connects. Pulls back Control Alt Eat. And this is the type of moment that could just break a game wide open. It's Layers going wild, and Snatty finally joins the fight. And that'll be a drop, a deicide, and a big moment for Mr. Play-by-Play.
There just seems to not be an answer to this double Fenrir. Unfortunate that Hades is just so late to this engagement that by the time he's there, half his team's already dead. If you are behind in this case, you've got to attempt to make it to your team first. If you can't find the advantage in the pure numbers of your build, of your gold, you've got to find advantage in the fellows of your team. And at this point, it's looking a little bit dicey. Lead's getting rather big, and especially so in the jungle.
Snatty in trouble. Oh, the double stun, that looks good, but sadly, I don't think it's gonna matter. Zek will end up getting the shutdown kill, and that's a 5-kill shutdown.
Ooh.
A little gold swing back. But man, that was big. That was about 5,000 that has now swung back to 4,000. Still Mr. Play-by-Play in control of the map right now. That last Gold Fury and Deicide ends up making a large difference here in this game.
Ooh.
And, unfortunate, we didn't see it. Don't know what you're talking about. Melody, that ultimate was just on cooldown from the previous fight. You'd love to have it right now. Man, we did see it. You have to talk about it. Ultimate gone, and so is Melody. Traded out with the kill on the line, and I'm So Pringles out from duo lane. It's a bit of damage for Throat Punch. We'll just call it a 1-for-1, but mid down in exchange for support feels bad. Dashboard sends a freeze forward. I'm So Pringles can't really step forward here. So it's more being annoying than anything else, but a lonely Ymir. Unless something can happen. And no, we'll just draw the lines, we'll separate, and somehow everyone across the map will live.
Yeah, somehow is the key modifying word there. Although on this left-hand side, it looks like that both of these sides are getting real close to it. Snatty does hit the one there to be able to seal the deal, and look at all this damage onto the Hades. Hades down, transform is not going to come through because Snatty's not making it, but an excellent pillar there from Pringles to slow him down. That Fatalis going absolutely crazy.
Ow, ow. Ow! Ow! There we go. Dashboard. Dashboard starting to stack some kills here as well. Second Deicide of the game for Mr. Play-by-Play. Lermy, I was worried in the early goings of game one here. But Mr. Play-by-Play have culled some of those concerns. It appears now that they are firmly in the driver's seat. There is still this threat of the scaling that Throat Punch will have, but Mr. Play-by-Play playing with enough momentum now, playing behind their 7-0 jungler. And now a much stronger on her. Bless a Fire Giant. We're in you've got it until you throw type territory for Mr. Play-by-Play.
Certainly is getting there. I mean, the best chance you have at doing some damage back right now is going to be your Anubis, but dang, look at that damage there onto controlled I eat from Snatty, who has just gone almost entirely full damage. A little Genji's guard slips its way into there, but we can forget about that. Level lead makes it so that that isn't really super relevant to his damage. The base stats are what's carrying this Morgan at this point going forward. And geez, it's tough on these streets here for Throat Punch. Blinks here from Snatty with the transform does indeed do it. Forced out of the way here, dropping the bomb. Interestingly enough, gotta be careful because he's in the middle of 4. Does end up able to sneak away though, as Lin gets absolutely bamboozled by this clone. And Prince is also going to try to chase him down. But this Gem of Focus is making it so that this Morgan is really speedy.
Man, this game is just sort of falling apart at the seams for Throat Punch. I was real hopeful early in the game that we might have a real competitive match on our hands, and it was for the first 15 minutes. Mr. Play-by-Play has just played a bit more consistently down the stretch.
They're lurking.
Prince has got to see this one coming, and unfortunately, regardless, doesn't matter. Snatty and Layers far too strong. That is 15 combined kills and only 1 death for those two. Prince, no chance. That being said, Pluck back on a dashboard. Dashboard just fine to be there, because he'll turn around, he'll freeze you, and he'll wander on out.
No way he gets out of that.
The wall keeps him alive as the tower was swinging away. Now, this is what we've seen so much of. Throat Punch just sticking around, out of position. Should be able to survive, but Fool goes through, blink forward, and plenty of damage from Zek. But Layers at 8-0, obliterating Throat Punch. Adds another, should be a tier 2 tower as well.
Nice and clean here thus far. Unfortunately, Snatty does fall, but if Melody can hit a couple of big heals here, gonna be able to keep these guys going for much longer. Melody grabs the final hit onto the Pernonos, and they are forcing down this Phoenix as much as they can, but it barely lives. It hangs on with a sub 100 amount of life, and it's slowly going to heal back up. But nice and easy, not willing to overcommit here is Mr. Play-by-Play. They've got a Gold Fury to go hunt down instead of a Phoenix. At this point, they'll be back.
You would think that Mr. Play-by-Play will turn around, rejoin the base side of the map. Throat Punch may be just counting down the seconds so they can regroup here for game 2. I mean, this Anubis has really worked out. The Zeus, sadly, I mean, look, Zeus is strong, but still falls prey to some of the same Zeus things that we've seen in the past. Mr. Play-by-Play playing around it very well. This is the layers I thought we would see in the set that we watched earlier on. Just absolutely crushing, W key, don't stop. We saw it for moments, but just couldn't clean things up against Kitty Party. But now with some support from the rest of the team, things going smoothly. Mid lane hasn't quite gone well for Mr. Play-by-Play, 1 and 5, but the rest certainly looks clean. So you got a Fire Giant wearing off here in a little bit, may regroup, go around it, or if you're I'm So Pringles, yeah, you're gonna follow up your support. Wall, Lightning Storm, Impale, auto attacks. It's just too clean for Mr. Play-by-Play's duo lane. Desert Fury flies on in. This is a 2-man wrecking ball, just the duo lane of Mr. Play-by-Play getting it done against the entirety of Throat Punch. Unless Pringles goes down. No, it's just a bait and switch. Oh, Zek from over the wall, but does it really matter? Because Mr. Play-by-Play is in, should be able to clean up the rest of this fight. Melody doesn't want to fall prey to the healing that Zek has. This could be the 3rd deicide of the game for Mr. Play-by-Play, but Zek is able to survive, scurry away. Might not matter though, Wormy. You don't have your ADC. There might be enough damage to end the game.
It's going to be close here, Dave. 1 tower standing on this right-hand side does leave the Titan with a lot of health, and chasing down that Morian Clone certainly doesn't help the positioning of the Titan in that base. So seeing that, we're going to see Play-by-Play back it on up. And, oh yeah, what's that Fire Giant spawning now? Yeah, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, I'll take that one to go. Just haven't really been answers for Throat Punch here this game. It's been tiring for Lynant. I mean, the give and take of a Sobek is what, you go in, but then guess what? You're in. And unfortunately, that means you're with the rest of the team. You got to use your ultimate to get out a few times. Haven't really been able to stay aggressive with it in the last few minutes. I mean, you got to insta-give someone if you're Zek here. But, I mean, look, the early part of that fight is what scares me. I mean, it's Dashboard and Pringles, 2 against, like, 4. And it didn't matter until Zekbeck sent out that ultimate. Man. Wormy, Throat Punch are actually stepping forward here. I mean, you put yourself out of position. You think?
Yeah, they've got to keep this Fire Giant away. I mean, certainly a good sneak behind here from the Hades will do you a lot of good, especially if you're able to pick up a kill now.
What a start. You've separated Mr. Play-by-Play and Dashboard low. A good start to this fight for Throat Punch. Lynant with the burst. Oh, Zek has 2! This fight has gone sideways. Can Layers and Snatty get it done? They're the strongest members of Mr. Play-by-Play. And they're the last line of defense now against Throat Punch. Surely in a 3v2, they're still feeling fine. It's about closing the gap. 2 dogs chasing you down. But Vul can dash away in time. The 3rd dog in this game, Anubis, finds his way over to mid. Hides in the bush. 1 more auto is what Snatty needs. D-transforms, gets it. And in a fight that started off sideways, who else but Snatty and Layers to right the ship? A double kill for Snatty, a deicide for Mr. Play-by-Play. They may have enough minions to end the game and take game 1.
I don't know if they will, Dave. It's a bit concerning here. They've got the Sobek and the Zeus on deck, ready to defend. And that is not a full health Morgan by any stretch of the imagination, but that's a ton of damage onto the Sobek. Zeus the next target. Forces out the Lightning Storm, but again, not enough damage to push it that far into the base, especially with less than 10 on the Kronos.
I need to just stop saying anything about potentially ending the game because I'm 0 for 2, overestimating the confidence a bit. Good news for Mr. Play-by-Play is there is still a Fire Giant, 2nd of the game at 24 minutes in the FG pit. Yeah, who else to focus on but the 12-2 Morgan and the 12-0 Fenrir. And then they copy one another. It's just brutal. As a Morgan, it's strong. As the Fenrir, Still strong. Layers, a masterclass. Small consolation prize. Throat punch. Seemingly able to clean up this Ancient Fury, but Snatty is in. Transforms. Lightning Storm. Out onto a few. Should be I mean, this is taking forever. It's taking way too long. In goes Dashboard. Triple freeze. That's wild. And the ultimate catches out onto 4. The wall just too far to the side. But it doesn't matter. Layers is collapsed in. Dare I say it? Dare I say that Mr. Play-by-Play should win this fight and then close out the game, because Layers at 13-0 has obliterated Throat Punch, and it's going to do it one more time. Snatty will not be able to match his jungler, will fall 1 kill short. And I'm going to say it, game 1 in the books.
Yeah, that has got to be it at this stage. Sobek up in 15, but even then, a Sobek is going to be by himself for roughly 10 seconds. And against all 5 members of Mr. Play-by-Play, I think we can write this one up as being done and dusted. A humongous turnaround from the performance in the last set. Layers and Snatty, just insane performance this game.
Well, Mr. Play-by-Play, they cleaned things up from the set we saw earlier today, Laramie. Throat Punch reminded of what happened earlier on here in Group C. This is when you and I were breaking down the set earlier today, and we're like, here's what may happen, here's what I want to see happen. A lot of pressure we put onto Layers, a lot of emphasis we put onto Layers. I mean, you can't expect like a 15-0 game every time you load in, but I mean, the Layers Fenrir, I think he actually ended up 14-0. Maybe it was 15. Yep. We'll see the post-game stats in a little bit. Either way, it was unbeatable. And Throat Punch got a pretty solid draft, but fall just a bit short. It's Mr. Play-by-Play taking game 1. Let's see what happens. And we'll break down game number 1, move into game number 2 right after this.
claustrophobic mind, and I am not the thing someone to save you. I wanna tell you something new. You drove us both into a wall. I drive away into the night, and I contemplate for a while. I wish you all the best I can, and I stop myself for a while.
Hey, welcome back. It's Dolson and Laramie still ready to break down game number 1 of this last chance qualifier. This is a big one here. If you're Mr. Play-by-Play trying to bounce back after a brutal 0-2 loss, and they're able to do that and more against Throat Punch in game number 1. Another important note, though, is a lot of you are watching this and wanting to jump in and play some Smite 2 of your own. We've got some great news for you. You can get in, and some of you have been able to snag codes to play Smite 2 from this channel. But if you want just a little bit more, there's some options for you with the Smite 2 Founders Editions upgrade. We have long said that that second row there, all gods in Smite 2 forever, is one of the best deals in gaming. It is here again in Smite 2, and you get that with just the base Founders Edition. Obviously, a couple of additions after that. And if you're watching these Zeus games, maybe not this one, and feeling inspired and want to play and look your best on Zeus, that Ultimate Edition has the Fallen Zeus skin, which is one of the cooler skins that you can grab for yourself in Smite 2. So take a peek at this chart, consider what may be right for you, and upgrade yourself to the next tier of the Founders Edition today, or whenever you're feeling like it. In Laramie, I think we're going to need to see an upgrade of just play from Throat Punch in Game 2 if they want to hang around with Mr. Play-by-Play here, because things were close, a bit hectic early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately outclassed, though, when it came time to group up and team fight.
Yeah, those team fights in the mid game started to get a little crazy. We got Snatty absolutely snowballing things out of control over as Morgan in the solo lane. And if you just check out these stats, I mean, look at those KDAs coming out of Snatty and Layers both. Those were the two absolutely dominating the game. And we had Zek on the other side doing his best to carry through for his team, but unfortunately just not enough help for this jungler at that stage in the game. But thankfully, they're going to take a look at these numbers as well as we are right now to try and hopefully find a path forward to get through this unbeatable, it felt like, duo of the jungler and the soul laner for Mr. Play-by-Play.
When you look at just the compositions and the way they're built, I mean, are there glaring issues in your mind for Throat Punch Studio? I mean, sometimes it just comes down to how you play the game in the game, and it's as simple as that. They just got outdone, out-mechanicked, out-decision making. Is it as simple as that for you, or are there some glaring, obvious changes that you would make going into the second game?
I don't love the Hades and solo. It didn't really feel like it had the impact that it needed to have. I don't think, they really expected to go up against the Morgan, because Hades wins the pressure game like 9.9 times out of 10. The one matchup that he does lose is against those carries or characters that can do damage or built to do damage. Right. And Morgan, certainly one of those characters that can do it. Just goes to show you exactly how flexible Snatty can be if he needs to. So I think that's one thing that I would keep an eye out for. Try something other than the Hades, perhaps. Even a Hercules. I think there's a lot of solid options to throw over in that direction that gives you a different look for this solo lane. I think
Yeah.
on top of that, I didn't love the Anubis pick for Zach. I do think that he did play it well considering, but in terms of the early pressure that he's able to bring, it didn't feel the best compared
Right.
to the power that this Fenrir had.
So maybe an Anubis change, maybe a Hades change. We'll find out in P's and V's for game number 2. More of the same is what we all would probably ask of Layers, probably of Snatty as well, if you're hoping to cruise your way to a 2-0 win and the playoffs. Remember to reset the stage if you're just joining us. All weekend long has been the last chance qualifiers. The match we saw earlier today was just to go to playoffs. Mr. Play-by-Play lost that, convincingly lost that 0-2. And then this match, if you win, if Mr. Play-by-Play win this game 2 or a potential game 3, then they're on to the playoffs. The loser of this best of 3 headed home from the SMITE 2 Founder Series. This is the last chance, the last-ditch effort. And with that, the weight of the picks and bans builds up a little bit for Throat Punch here. You've got one ban, potentially, and then your SMITE 2 Founder Series is over if you end up losing or making a mistake. Fenrir is the answer. I suppose hard to argue against Lermy when Layers goes 14-0 in game 1. I mean, still has a Loki though. Layers is certainly a flexible player. Does the Fenrir make some sense though? I mean, that is the hot hand. Let's get it away from Mr. Play-by-Play.
Yeah, exactly everything you said, Dave. I think that Throat Punch has done everything right thus far in the draft. The Amaterasu we clearly saw in the last set is an incredible character, and I think it's going to be the exact thing that they need over in the solo lane to really shake things up. I did mention I want to see not the Hades, and this is really your best option across the board at this stage of the game is the Ama, but going up against the Sobek and the Kern, I mean, these are just two really safe selections here for Mr. Play-by-Play. Lock down that dual lane, and remarkably so, this will be the first time we see Pringles, assuming this is for Pringles, off of the On Her today. And I won't say that he had a bad performance, because certainly his performance in the last game was very good, but happy to see him try something a little bit different here, and working against the Anubis is always a good thing for the Kurnos to have.
Yeah, I'm wondering, we'll see. We'll be able to dissect this draft as we see a few more picks. Is that going to go back for Zek in the jungle? You're going to put it for Prince and mid.
Oh, the party's this way.
Baron maybe opens up or closes down that conversation a little bit. Could be a jungle, who knows? We'll find out maybe in the last couple picks. It'll become obvious to us. We also mentioned, I mean, Krim, again, one of the more storied mid laners in the SCC and very close to qualifying. Certainly SPL caliber, but just wasn't able to get things done during qualifications in years of past. Subbed out, and I don't know why. I'm not claiming to know why, but what we do know is he's not playing here in game 2 or game 1. It's Melody instead. I think Melody did okay. There was certainly pressure put towards Melody, but just needed to play that role and let Snatty and Layers live. And Nuwa is a great pick at doing just that. So I don't mind it here for Melody. But it's the Susano Lermy for Layers. Can you play similar on the Susano to the Fenrir? Can you stay aggressive on this pick?
Not quite the same way, and I am a little bit concerned about the Susano just because, he's received nerf after nerf. It's not as strong as he used to be, but let's forget that for a second. Let's forget the numbers in Susano's kit.
Right.
And let's just think about Susano as a character and Layers as a player.
Yep.
What an iconic matchup. Maybe not quite as much as the Thor, but Thor, of course, not into SMITE 2 yet. On the way, soon enough. But Layers loves the Susano, absolutely adores it. So I am excited to see one of Layers' more favorite picks. I mean, if he was playing the Fenrir, which of course he's great at, but this is a pick that he loves to go to, I'm shaking in my boots if I'm Throat Punch. Last game was a 14-0 Fenrir. This game could be very different, considering it's a Thanatos. All right, this is a Thanatos solo. I can see it now.
Okay.
Just because Thana does have the sustain you'd hope for out of a solo laner, Susano does not much harder to play in lane, and I don't see Layers as much of a Thanatos player as I see him a Susano player.
Okay, and remember Snatty played the Morgan in game 1, played it like an assassin once rotate time came. So I guess why not play like a literal, actual assassin? I'd be behind it, Lermy. And look, I think it's interesting how my perspective changes a little bit, because I think if this was game 1 for Mr. Play-by-Play and you're fresh off an 0-2 brutal loss against Kitty Party, and then immediately you get cute and throw a Thana in solo, even, you know, maybe felt similar about the Morgan, but like I probably would have felt a little bit different. But now that I can just sense this momentum behind Mr. Play-by-Play, they feel like Snatty can just kind of dominate Voolg in lane again. Why not? You bought a little leeway. With me. I'm presuming then it'll be Anubis jungle with Yamaterasu over in the solo lane. Do you have enough presence, though? Do you feel like this Anubis can keep pace up against a Susano? We know Layers is going to try to play fast. Can an Anubis match that?
I don't love it, honestly, and I kind of have already explained a little bit why. I just don't think the clear speed matches the level of pressure that you need to have if you're a throw punch right now, because Layers as a player, we've seen it time and time again. He plays fast and he fights often, and Anubis does not do that. In fact, does quite the opposite of that. Plays nice and slow, and then once he gets that ultimate is able to do a little something. But I mean, Layers will be getting active. If this Anubis is able to keep up, that's going to be great. They're going to be totally fine. But the issue is that is very, very difficult considering the clear speed and how soon you can get to that power spike of really being able to chase people down, 100-0 them. Susano does that. Anubis doesn't. So that's the baseline argument of why I'm not in love with the Anubis. But again, Zek was the shining light for Throw Punch in the last set, or the last game rather. So I do think that it's good to keep the hot hand hot, but at the same time, you can't claim that game was a hot game for Throw Punch, because it certainly wasn't.
No, it was all on Zek, and there were moments where I thought maybe he could carry a team fight, but ended up not being the case. Really, it was just once Layers and Snatty joined the fight. Pringles, Dashboard, and Melody had done enough that the rest of the pins just get knocked down. It'll be Neath, I assume, over in mid lane, putting Jingwei in duo. And so it's sort of hard to predict maybe exactly what the mindset of the junglers is going to be. I mean, are there some obvious choices in your mind for Layers, easy ganks, mid lane, solo, duo? Is anywhere on the map looking particularly gankable as far as setting the pace of game 2?
It's going to be hard to go to duo. I think, though, because that Mr. Play-by-Play is working with a Sobek specifically, Jingwei, specializes in getting away from enemies with knockups, but that's only one time. So if you're able to force out the dash, able to force out the ultimate, Layers can run it back nice and easy afterward. But that's going to be all about the aggression that Pringles and Dashboard have. So if they're able to keep up the pressure, which in theory they should, right? Jingwei not known to have the best clear out of really all the hunters in the game. But regardless, I think that assuming the pressure is great, I want Layers to hit up this duo lane and really not give any room to breathe. But we've seen him do that already. I'm sure he'll do it again.
Yeah, loved what I saw from Dashboard on the setup as well. I think it'll look a little bit different on the Sobek. I mean, that Ymir, in a game where really what you just need is to corral. A couple members of your team are so fed. Toss up a wall, throw out a cone freeze, just knock people down as best as you can. That's really what Dashboard needed to do. We're going to be trying to pick off some individuals here on this Sobek, but later in the game, such a strong pick. I wait with bated breath to see what will happen with this Thanatos. Just in games of past, it's been like the ultimate triple-double machine. It's just absolutely crushed, but also dies a lot. You sort of live and die by Thanatos. Can only talk about it so much before we see it in action. Mr. Play-by-Play, one game away from moving on to the playoffs and sending Throat Punch home. In we go with Prince and the rest of Throat Punch zooming up towards mid. Actually, it's not mid. That is solo.
Huh?
This is a squad who will group up as 5 and try to catch you out for a kill. It's caught Mr. Play-by-Play off guard in the past. So here we go.
Yeah, really going for it.
Can we set this tone is the question. Is Snatty it's also Snatty, by the way, on Susano solo.
No way.
Layers is on Thanatos jungle.
That blows my mind. I won't lie to you.
They're going to get spotted here.
I don't think they have been spotted quite yet.
Did you not just see him?
Oh, now they have.
There we go. All right. Sad. I always get so excited when this stuff starts, and then it... I mean, yeah. Come on, guys. Let's give it up. Stop making me wait. Just leave. Yeah, there we go. All right, everyone backs away. But we get a chance to talk about it. Lermy Snatty playing the Susano. And Layers will be on the Thanatos jungle.
Minions have spawned.
It's admittedly not what we expected, but I suppose if you got 2 assassins and one's got to go one lane, the other's got to go the other, it was the only other option.
It's an interesting setup, right? Especially with how lifesteal has changed in SMITE 2. It's not a terrible selection, I think, because, you know, if you're playing Susano solo in SMITE 1, you're building Soul Eater, you're doing some solid damage that way. And speaking of some solid damage, Control
Ow.
Alt I Eat. Forced backwards, just not enough pressure from this Jingwei to do much here, but guess who else is here? Mid laner has rolled on up, and Neath is really going to do enough damage here to dissuade any further engagements going forward.
Both relics used by the dual lane of Throat Punch.
Your middle tower is under attack.
And just a little bit of time wasted as Prince rotates over towards left. Melody able to clear off that wave just fine. So Layers on the Thanatos. We talked a little bit about Susano versus Anubis as far as setting pace and matching the Anubis. Anubis trying to match the Susano. Maybe this is why you put Snatty on the Susano. Just gonna brawl it out with Vulg and win the damage trade early in the game. Does your analysis largely stay the same now that it's a Thanatos? Do you still think Layers has similar abilities? Obviously, it's gonna look a little bit different, but maybe waiting to see if, yep, Lion Ant gets rooted in place. Gotta be first blood. Dashboard. Hit him! There you go. Dashboard gets it. Control Alt I Eat. Oh, he gets plucked back. Dashboard's gonna trade out his life. No! Water Tower gets it. That sucks for Throat Punch. No one hits him in all of that. He dies, but does he really? Mr. Play-by-Play with 2 over in duo. And it might not be great over here in mid either. Silence from Layers. Force the backflip from Prince. And how about a tough start for Throat Punch?
Yeah, like you said though, let's talk about this matchup real fast for the Anubis versus Thanatos. Honestly, this is a better character-to-character matchup when it comes down to it. Silence, especially good up against an Anubis who spends a lot of time channeling the Plague of Locusts. So if you're able to cancel that out, that is a huge, huge chunk of his damage gone for a relatively significant cooldown at the time. Overall, tends to be the more positive matchup rather than the Susano. However, I'm just very interested to see here what Snatty build. I was going to mention earlier that lifesteal also works on abilities for physical characters in SMITE 2, so if Snatty decides to go for a serrated edge early or something of that nature, able to do a lot of sustaining in lane, which is generally the weakness of Susano. Nice knockup though for this Jingwei, will dissuade any further aggression out of the Mr. Play-by-Play duo lane, but speaking of aggression, it's just non-stop from Snatty.
I mean, I suppose what you expect. You just a few more buttons with those resets to click, and might not get any better for the Throat Punch dual lane here. Dash away from Control Alt I Eat. Oh, that wrap had to hit for Zek, and it sure does, but watch out. Layers in on the chase. Does not have ultimate, so can't get the execute. Does not have, maybe has blink, but I'm following the wrong person because Pringles has the damage from range. And now it's 0-2 start for Control Alt I Eat. Game 1 was all about jungle and solo for Mr. Play-by-Play. Everything running through the duo lane now. Sobek plus Kern is equaling a lot right now.
Big money. You love to see
Should be
it.
some damage from Nuwa. See 3 here. Yeah, just a purple buff invade against 3. Oh, nope, Layers is here as well. So that'll even the score. Man, even with ultimate, Zek just gets crushed by Layers and the rest of Mr. Play-by-Play. And now Layers has Hovering Death. And the map has opened up a bit further for this Thanatos.
Yep, surprised he's not sticking around here considering that buff is up in the next 20 or so seconds. And, you know, considering Anubis will likely run up that direction, you know, that would have probably been an easy kill considering no ult for Zek and ult available for Layers. But I respect the patience there out of the jungler, willing to go back, spend the money on the brawlers, and head on back into this fight one more time.
Natty pulls Vulg back 2 levels ahead. Ugh. That just feels terrible. I mean, got to imagine you get to level 5 with this wave, but I mean, that just really feels bad for this Amaterasu. Maybe not. I mean, it's still just half a level. Wow, so that is a full 2 levels behind. Oh, goodness, Snatty! Nearly with the solo under tower. Vug will stay at level 4. So they've got to go back to base and reset. Unreal. Last couple of games from Snatty. And this Susano is largely keeping up the pace from the Morgan in game 1.
Dashboard just taking this jungler on a journey, trying to distract as much as humanly possible here, while Layers looks for somebody in this jungle to fight. I'm sure that, you know, early game Thanatos would love to find anybody just walking through this jungle, and then honestly could probably kill any of them. But now that Control Aldaid has been spotted out on this left-hand side, might see some more pressure go this direction. But what is this tomfoolery going on with
I don't know.
with Dashboard under this tower? I guess trying to just sow confusion in the minds of Throat Punch, and certainly it's worked thus far. Buff picked up though in mid, gives a little bit of extra farm. Oh, unlucky minion there for Dashboard. Does get rooted out as well. Sight missed means not a lot of damage going the way against Throat Punch, but certainly returning a tower shot or two onto the Sobek is not too bad.
Gold Fury might just put a stamp. Oh, that stinks for Snatty. A little bit of damage on the other side. Changes it from a solo. Fury! Someone get it! Wow, it goes to Throat Punch. In goes Zek. Secures the Gold Fury for his team, and these health bars are actually really low for Mr. Play-by-Play. Can Prince rotate through and get anything done? Doesn't appear to be so. Pringles alone. And we will disengage as such. It was a kill from Melody, I believe, with the ultimate over in solo lane. Snatty on the assist. Fool pulls back a kill. And then how big, Lermy, is that? Gold Fury steal from Throat Punch. Keeps it at about 3,000 gold behind, instead of going the opposite direction, 4K plus.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it on the graph right there. Game hasn't been going all that long, and grabbing that Gold Fury is a significant chunk of that lead going back in the favor of Throat Punch. And wow, it really is just insane the amount of damage that happens between these two solo laners. Snatty just able to get all this incidental damage, especially with all these extra cooldowns thanks to the Odin's Revenge. Never a bad item to be having and starting with, especially if you're a Susano. And I mean, you can just see him jumping around. He loves these aggressive picks. And now that we're really seeing him shine, it's amazing.
Man.
But what a good flex there from the Sobek.
I don't know if Melody has the damage or the stun ready to go. Layers over and left. Thinking Control Alt I eat.
Oh, he's
gonna have a
for it.
hovering death waiting around the corner. Can you aim? Yes, you can. Layers. An easy one on the gank over in duo. And, you know, I suppose, Laramie, when you're feeling as confident as Mr. Play-by-Play are, you can kind of get creative with your picks. I'm curious to see how much of this remains when we see, presumably see this Mr. Play-by-Play team in playoffs, because got some good opponents headed for you next weekend. Unlucky. Vulk gets away, almost a solo for Snatty. Just shy of the kill. But still, I mean, the pressure of forcing out Vulg has felt like enough, but Vulg is caught back up. It was a couple levels down. Now he's been able to farm and get right back into that lane. So I'll be curious to see if Mr. Play-by-Play choose the assassin, Morgan, solo type comps if we see them at playoffs, or if this is just a confidence thing after the morning. Control Alt I eat 3 levels down. Vulg has actually out-traded Snatty here. Should be another. One more auto, and I'm So Pringles is starting to run away with duo.
Absolutely. And to answer your question, Dave, I do think they're going to have to stick to a little bit closer to the meta, because as we start to go up the totem pole of these rosters and really look at some of these even past world champions, reigning world champions that are going to be attending the Vegas qualifiers and things of that nature, you have to get a little bit concerned that these teams are just the best of the best that SMITE and SMITE 2 have to offer. When it comes down to it, comfort picks will help you only so far, and these certainly are a couple of comfort picks that we see for Snatty especially, but in the previous set, he was playing those more standard picks and not looking too crazy on him, but certainly bringing it back on these unconventional.
Can Snatty finally get the solo he's been searching for? No, because it's going to be a 2v1. Oh, man.
Ooh, more than that.
Going to have a World Weaver. Oh, he goes back in, but looks cooler and nothing else happens. Got a feel for Snatty. Has gotten Voog close to death a few times. Didn't even get the first kill. That was an ultimate from Melody that finally killed off Voog. And other than that, Zek has been around and just not been able to finish off the last bit of damage. Still maintains a slight experience lead. I'm so Pringles forces the ultimate out of control. Alt I eat with dashboard. And Lermy, we talked a bit about the solo lane, yes, but really this left side is kind of no contest for Mr. Play-by-Play at this point. So no surprise that the Fury is the target.
Yeah, most certainly not. I mean, this should go down relatively quickly. Kronos has got a big chunk of damage on that. Nuwa ulting just for vision to make sure they don't have to worry about any contest on it. And considering the closest enemy is the Jingwei who's flying back from base, it's no big deal for Mr. Play-by-Play. They claim the second Gold Fury of the game, which means we're getting closer and closer to an Ancient Fury. Although we've been seeing Mr. Play-by-Play be on top of these objectives. I'm sure they'll be there the second that Pyromancer is available and things of that nature. But ult traded for Blink here in mid. Lin able to take it and go, you might say. That ultimate is going to be on a much less lengthy cooldown in comparison to the Blink, so not a bad trade by any means.
Do you think it's Lineant or Lineant?
I think in the last week we were actually corrected to it's Lineant.
Oh, okay.
I believe. So
well, I apologize. I've been saying
that's-
Line Ant this entire time.
I think he actually commented. I can't believe that they all think it's Lineant, but such is the way of the world with
Lineant.
Lineant.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lineant. All right, understood.
Maybe you need to capitalize the E here.
Yeah.
So we see it a little bit differently.
Well, Lineant, if you're listening back to this at a later date, I apologize. You know, double like salt in the wound. It's a brutal game one. So the only time I've been saying the name has been Mr. Play-by-Play is crushing, and also I've been saying it wrong. So unlucky for me, but I got it from this point on. Hopefully we'll get to cast some more Throat Punch in the future, and this won't be the last time I have to correct myself on that name. But they've got a big turnaround to make here. 6,000 gold at 12.5 minutes, not an easy task. Mr. Play-by-Play in a position maybe to collapse into the jungle. Up goes Melody, a little bit of vision, teeny bit of damage. So Mr. Play-by-Play slightly passive in their positioning over here in the mid-side jungle. Everyone will be able to back away, but Snatty's been left alone, Lermy, and that means a 2-level lead, and I was going to say maybe a whole tower, but really just half a tower over here in solo lane. And I think, admittedly, I might repeat what I said in game one. Snatty slightly ahead.
Ooh.
Good KD. I'm excited to see what this Susano can do once it is able to join these team fights.
Yeah, I mean, certainly having two assassins just looking for picks throughout that later stage of the game is going to be real nice. Considering there's not much that an Anubis can do to run away. He's really got to stand his ground and fight. And a character as mobile as a Susano is going to be really hard for this Anubis to deal with, considering you've got a teeny tiny little line and you're trying to hit as many picks as you can. But Snatty in a bit of danger there. Not trading out particularly well with the Ama at this stage of the game, but with help from Layers, that might not be the case anymore.
Dazzling offensive. It's one stun, but finally it's Snatty who gets some help. Oh! Layers, I think, trying to block that World Weaver, but Snatty just avoids it. What I'm watching here, no, Zek won't be able to make it over in time. So Snatty finally gets some help from the jungle, and it's the kill on to Voog. Has been so close so many times. And this time it's Layers who picks it up, dodges out some of the early damage, has that from a Thanatos. Blinks away, has hovering death. If you feel like there's potential to go back in. Lineant crushed by the rest of Mr. Play-by-Play. There's the stun and the damage from Layers. Goes in, up, down. Pluck nearly missing onto Zek. And one by one. Throat punch picked apart by Mr. Play-by-Play.
Yeah, this far in, not much has been able to rival this Thanatos sitting 4-0-0 alongside the 4-0-3 Ternanos. Just two very, very large carries.
Your right
Really
tower
farming
is
up
under attack.
on the side of Mr. Play-by-Play. This gold lead is not looking too good right now, Dave. I'm getting very concerned that we're starting to reach a point of no
Destroying the
return.
pyro.
Yeah, maybe there. Throat punch. Gotta somehow turn this game around and then win in game 3 to stay alive in the Smite 2 Founder Series. Mr. Play-by-Play, after a tough loss earlier today, seemingly righted the ship, and they've done it quickly. Throat punch gotta be careful on this grouping here. Gold Fury up, yes, but if you step forward, you might just get splattered by Mr. Play-by-Play. So, looks like the positioning may be a bit more cautious from Throat Punch. Snatty, 3 levels ahead of Boog. Has more than enough damage, but it's finally going to be the solo. Was a one-on-one, but Dazzling Offensive countered out the knockup. So, nothing to be said over in solo, nothing to be said over by the Gold Fury. And Throat Punch uninterested in stepping forward and trying to contest. And admittedly, Lermy, probably the smart move. Gotta go for moments like this, where you miss everything. And then Melody says, I'm just gonna float up to the sky. Gotta kill Melody. Got to.
Oh,
Don't
that
kill
is-
Melody. They use 3 ultimates. And don't get Melody at the end of the day. That feels real bad and pretty indicative of the way this game has gone.
That is tough. Tough. And even a lot of damage there from the oh god, I'm sorry, I'm getting completely distracted by Dashboard
funnel.
just
Yep.
relentlessly chasing down Zek, who's going in the complete wrong direction, mind you. Zek, this is not your base, my friend. Where are we off to?
Back to his own base here shortly. He's just gonna have to wait 40 seconds to get out of it. Snatty has now finally poked his head out of the solo lane. At level 16, highest in the game. 2 to 3 levels above everyone, 6 levels ahead of Lineant, who is the support for Throat Punch at level 10. So Snatty has been largely contained over to the right side of the map. But now we can see what he's able to do, and it's force Control Alt I Eat out of the jungle and steal away that purple buff. 17 minutes. Fire Giants here. Mr. Play-by-Play certainly have a lead, maybe a chance to get a kill onto Boog, who does
the
not
block.
have Dazzling Offensive. Not just yet. Don't know what the cooldown is. Don't think it matters. Dashboard in the rest of the crew. Clean that one up easily. So it seems like really just a matter of time when you get your ADC and the rest of the team around. You're going to start up the FG. And I don't think Throat Punch are going to be feeling too keen on grouping up and trying to contest.
Yeah, at this stage of the game, there's not much they can do other than pray for a steal. But even then, walking into that corridor is probably death. But Snatty might be in some danger here. Gets pulled on in. Fire Giant does go down, but it might
my
be costing
goodness.
Snatty's life.
God, everything hit Snatty there. Just no chance really to get out of it. Snatty, the unfortunate recipient of the jungle and 2v1 pressure from Throat Punch this game. But Fire Giant over to Mr. Play-by-Play. Maybe a kill over at mid. I mean, this has just been relentless. It's sort of hard to keep up with at times. Dashboard starts up the tanking. Be careful how long you're tanking it up. Oh, Layers nearly gets it done. Melody finishes off the kill. Hovering Death may find the Anubis. Oh, I was thinking maybe a 3-man stun from Layers, but thinks twice about going in 1v3. So the odd win trade for Throat Punch, 2v1. Layers could flip things around. Control Alt I Eat dodges out the initial site. Layers low. I'm so Pringles uses ultimate on the detonate.
Tower is under attack.
But can Throat Punch now collapse in? 2 half-health members of Mr. Play-by-Play. They have enough damage. Can they dodge out the CC? They do initially. Layers, oh, just short of the damage he needs. I'm
my
so
God.
Pringles cleans it up. How about it? From Mr. Play-by-Play. Throat Punch can't buy a kill, much less in a half-health 3v2. Layers is going to take the tower shot, and it's Lineage with the ultimate that finally gets it done. There's a rotating dashboard that may make him pay. Sprint, separator, somehow Lineage survives.
Yeah, Lineage will live, but unfortunately for Prince, he's not going to make it too much longer here. Pringles and Dashboard running down this right-hand side. They'll grab Snatty as well to see if they can make a dent into this Phoenix. Certainly doing a lot with Pringles, mainly focusing through, but a lot of damage coming through from this Phoenix, but even more from Snatty. Dashboard does go down in response, but for a Phoenix, you are more than happy to take that trade.
Yeah, you'll trade out your support for Phoenix every day of the week. Snatty with the rest of the squad, and I'm So Pringles divine at 906. Come on. Triple kill. Whoa, that was a delayed triple for Snatty. Slowly, one by one, conveyor belt, but it's a deicide for Mr. Play-by-Play.
Is under attack.
Maybe, sometimes you can make the argument that in the disjointed fights, you can kind of slowly pick apart the enemy team. I mean, right now, even in like a 3v1, it feels like the right members of Mr. Play-by-Play are just going to be able to win. I don't know what the avenue back is here for Throat Punch. It's going to have to be a throw and then some.
Yeah, most certainly. At this stage of the game, you're missing your right-hand side Phoenix, which thankfully is the easiest one to defend of the lot. But here's the problem, is that Ancient Fury is going to be attacked here with a couple of Nagas, Layers, Pringles. They'll be getting these, no problem. Which means those last two remaining towers are weakened, a lot easier to besiege, and more importantly, dove. Which I think a lot of players don't realize is the scariest part, is that Layers does not care about this tower, and it's gonna go in.
That's the diviest dive of all time, hovering death. Sadly, the tower cleans up the kill. Layers, eyes a bit bigger than his stomach. Nearly still picks up the one kill onto Prince over on the left side, but now the rest of Mr. Play-by-Play rotate their way on in. Melody pushing down the mid lane. I'm So Pringles probably can just get this done all on his own. Has the crit, has the damage, has the blink. Oh man, goodbye. One more auto, maybe two onto Vulg, but the rare aggressive side swap blink from I'm So Pringles, 11-0-7 on the Kernanos. Prince, backside of the Phoenix, smartly backflips away. Take your poison in this game. Everyone on Mr. Play-by-Play is getting it done.
Absolutely, and that last Phoenix, thanks to a couple swings from Melody, will be the last one to fall. And that means this base is completely wide open. Baron tries to go for something here, but it's gonna have to spend the whole rest of his life running away.
Lineant sends up life of the party, maybe delays things. Maybe a chance for Mr. Play-by-Play, or Throat Punch rather, to defend their base. Everyone back on the map. It's Dashboard and Layers respawning, rehealing from their base. Instead, probably smartly here for Mr. Play-by-Play. Just wait a moment and regroup with the rest of your team. Fire Giant will respawn shortly. Don't know if you need to wait for it, but ultimately, ultimately you don't need to do anything. You're 20k ahead. You're gonna watch a Jing Wei get two-shot here by a Kernanos. Instead, it's Vulg. This is supposed to be the tanky player on Throat Punch. Vex trying and succeeding in one instance, and it's actually gotten Pringles quite low. 12-0 shutdown. Layers now left to run. How about the base defense from Throat Punch? That Anubis ultimate, huge in forcing back Mr. Play-by-Play.
Yeah, had two of them stacked up, must have grabbed a ton of damage off of that. Just one engagement alone. And certainly does at least buy them a little bit of time, considering two carries are on the grayscale screen at this time. But Snatty knows that this Stingray is in danger. Is going to force out the ultimate, but Dashboard is there and waiting. Does have to dash though, which means Agility is going to keep this Stingray alive for now. But a little bit more damage might mean that the sub-execute is on the table.
Dashboard going to go through. Doesn't have ultimate anymore. Snatty from range cleans up the kill. He's low, and he's got to get out. Vulg on the chase, and has enough damage. Just as far from clean for Mr. Play-by-Play. Big shutdown starting to roll through as well. Again, you need about 6 more of these types of fights if you're Throat Punch, but one at a time is the name of the game. Sadly, the rest of your team dies off. Zek and
Prince.
Prince.
Look at the health in that Titan.
Only the delay. Oh yeah, what has happened here? These all the minions all the while we've been fighting. Mr. Play-by-Play is going to walk in and end the game as 2. What in the world goes wrong here? It's the minions, I guess, that are pushing out while we're fighting? Caught me by surprise, and it caught Throat Punch by surprise as well. Mr. Play-by-Play, 30-10. Get it done and find the 2-0.
Wow, just what an unfortunate ending to that game. They do find some luck at slowing down the fights, but the problem is they get pulled away from that Titan at the most crucial moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're all getting conveyor
so
belted out to the
unfortunate.
Phoenixes, and as casters, you got to put some intrigue in those types of games, but really, you could just sort of tell. 10, 15 minutes in, you're looking at 5, 6K gold lead, and this is the cleanliness, the detail-oriented smite that we expected to see from Mr. Play-by-Play in the first set. And so I think a good get-right game from them to not only win, but win in convincing fashion, and that'll move them on to the playoffs. And I think Lermy may be one of the sneakier teams in this last chance qualifier slot. This Mr. Play-by-Play team, that very talented as individuals. I think maybe ultimately the question is, can you clean it up as a team? And they sure did here in games 1 and 2 in a clean sweep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a turnaround from that first set as well. It was an unfortunate 0-2 that Mr. Play-by-Play dropped earlier in the day, but the mental fortitude
I know.
to be able to switch it up and go from an unfortunate loss where you're not looking great kind of across the board to having stand-out performances. I mean, especially for layers, but we had Pringles go crazy this game. In the previous game, we saw Snatty also just take it to him. And certainly what a nice switch up. Great
Yep.
adaptability, great ability to just turn it around and not let a loss be the end of your run.
Yeah, and look, you had to get right, and you had to get right quickly because they lost 0-2, as we've mentioned plenty of times now, and it was a pretty tough loss earlier on. So to sort of regroup, shake it off, and get back into it in a must win. Um, it's good to see because this team might face some adversity in the playoffs next weekend. So the ability to bounce back after a tough set could bode well for their chances to move themselves on. This is the I'm So Pringles show. Dashboard as well puts up a good performance over in the duo lane. Of course, Layers and Snatty look nice, Lermy, in game. The KDA is not quite as flashy as the 14-0 and 13-2 that we saw in game 1.
Mhm.
And you could just sort of sense that pressure over in duo. Sobek plus Kern kind of just did what they pleased over on the left side, and I just don't think Throat Punch Studio really had the answer. I mean, look at Zek. Should be the jungle that rotates in 4 and 8, and so it just wasn't there, and I think shows the pressure that a Sobek and a Kern can bring.
Most certainly. I do think that there was a game plan, and honestly, it was a solid one at that. Just unfortunately not able to execute it. The late game strategy, just not enough time to get online. Needed to really bring some kind of early game pressure, and just unfortunately got a bit trounced, if I'm being honest. The dual lane completely snowballed through, and from there, we saw Pringles just really clean it up.
Yeah, Control Alt I eat. Just couldn't get anything done on this Jingwei. I mean, there's always that threat that later in the game, depending on your build, a Jingwei can start to by that time. Even if you're 1 and 8, if you can get to full build, you're just starting to slam.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, the gold just simply wasn't there. I mean, everyone's a couple thousand behind. So, good looks for Mr. Play-by-Play, and again, I think could be a sneaky team moving into the playoff bracket. A team that maybe they have all this aggression and all this skill, and at this point is just about harnessing that and funneling it in the proper ways. And so I think what's also important, Lermy, now in a couple of games, it wasn't the case here in game 2, but in game 1, we're doing a whole kind of retrospective here. Mr. Play-by-Play figured out against this opponent how to deal with that Anubis and that Zeus on the same team. And so learning maybe from some of their past mistakes, an important trait in a team that's going to do some winning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what they have going forward as well, with more gods coming into the game as well. Meta going to be changing up quite a bit, even between weeks. I think this is definitely going to be a team that you want to keep your eyes on going forward into these playoffs, because I think they have a real shot once they get everything settled in terms of, we go into a set with the right mentality first, and not we adapt into the right mentality over time.
Yeah, we've been talking to a lot of supports here today, and in just a moment here, we're going to be able to talk to Dashboard as well. And I think it'll be interesting to talk to this team and figure out how they turned things around. Goodness, and we'll do that now with Dashboard, who's going to join us for the post-game interview. Dashboard, welcome in. Congrats on the win. Congrats on making your way into playoffs officially. Probably took a little bit longer today than you guys would have hoped. Talk to me a little bit about the kind of semifinal match you play. I don't know if that's the actual term, but the semifinal match you play. Take a little bit of a breather, get back after it, and a swift 2-0 for you here in the finals. What's that cool down time like for you guys between your two sets today?
Well, so the semifinals was it was kind of tough. They definitely we weren't expecting a lot of the comps that they were pulling out.
Yeah.
But in between matches, pretty much what we did was we kind of just all took a little bit of a break, chilled out a little bit because we were a little frustrated in between both games. And we're like, all right, let's just chill out. You know, we have about an hour until our next match. And we kind of came back, talked about our draft a little bit, what we wanted to pick, and kind of went in there with like more of a cool head.
Smart.
Yeah, definitely. I think that helped you guys out a lot. Going forward, though, are there things that you're looking forward to in terms of the next gods coming out, or you're hoping for in balance going forward that you think is really going to impact some state of the game that you think is really going to either help you out or things that you're going to be concerned about?
I can't wait for Kepri. All right. Kepri's like my favorite character. Kepri's going to come out, and now you can 2 yourself as well when it lands. That's going to be amazing. So I'm looking for Kepri, and hopefully I'm looking to pull him out in future matches.
When you got layers in the jungle, and I know Thor is just around the corner, and that's a strong pick for him there as well. Look, and I talked about it with Lermy on the cast here. Final thoughts from you, Dashboard. This is such a talented team from top to bottom. I mean, players that we have seen play in competitive Smite for years. What is it going to take to advance through to the playoffs? Do you think the big hurdle is playing together consistently as a team? What's your take on the team, and what should we expect from you next weekend in playoffs?
We're setting up more rounds of scrims. We're gonna need more rounds of scrims for sure. But yeah, we're looking to hopefully take it home and do a lot better in the coming weeks. Just more scrims, more practice, more reps.
Mhm.
Always a good thing. Dashboard, appreciate your time. Congrats. We'll see you in playoffs next weekend. Excited to see what the team has in store.
Great, thank you.
And I think, Lermy, as far as diagnosing what we want to see from this team, Dashboard has it just right. And I think a couple things to pull from that. One, the reset time between sets, I think, was important for them. You know, not what you want in your semifinal match, but to just say, look, guys, we are a little tilted. We're a little frustrated. Let's take a moment. We're feeling fine matchup-wise. We already beat these guys. And then to come back, that's a good look. But also realizing, look, we are talented as individuals. Let's scrim, let's get together and play some more Smite 2, and I think that'll set them up well. Let's take a final look at this bracket here out of North America. Groups A, B, C, and D are now done. The matchup that we had off stream, that final one last chance matchup, was Roll the Dice versus First Name Zach. And Lermy, you pointed out a 2-1 for First Name Zach earlier in the weekend. They end up meeting against one another again in the last chance qualifier. And how about it for Roll the Dice, a 2-0 win over First Name Zach? You know, every once in a while that'll happen. You'll play against a team, you'll lose, and then you'll make the adjustments in the second time. You know, the team who wins originally is just going to do what they did the first time because they think that's all they got to draft like and play like. Sometimes the team that lost the first time around can make those adjustments.
Yeah, it just feels good as well to know that you were able to, like we talked about, diagnose exactly what you need to do and bring it into the set that really matters. I mean, all the marbles were on the table, all the pieces were on the board at this point, and they had to make an adjustment, and they sure did.
Lermy, I don't know if I've ever actually played marbles in a way where I put them all on the table. You know, I don't, because it's a game where each player starts with like a certain amount and you're like knocking the other person's marbles away and you win their marbles. Maybe like all the marbles is the way the game, you take the other person's marbles. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just before my time.
There's lots of marble games.
I play games on a screen. I don't know
what
marbles is. Was marbles back in the day when they were whacking a hoop along with a stick? Was marble? Maybe it was. Unsure. I've gone off the rails here.
Aren't you older than me?
I'm 29, so I would assume a little bit. That when I was a child, I used to play that game. I chiseled on a tablet and played with marbles. Congrats to Mr. Play-by-Play. They get the final spot in our playoffs. Make sure to tune in next weekend. The Smite 2 Founder Series continues with playoffs, as we're going to whittle it down even further next weekend. And so as we build towards Vegas, the stakes get a little bit higher, and next weekend is no exception. Great to watch Mr. Play-by-Play turn things around. It was a fun one, Lermy, and I appreciate you being here along with me. Appreciate everyone at home being along with us as well. On behalf of myself, Lermy, everyone back in production, all the other casters, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next weekend.
Made in Georgia.